you were in one of my all-time favorite films, Goodfellas. I don't
So
know what it
cool.
is about that movie. Every time it comes on, I just love the gangster chic, but it's
Yeah.
because it's so well acted. And it, it, that movie is just great. Plus, you got to work with Scorsese.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, it's my claim to fame. I was very popular at Italian weddings and in video stores and things like that. But yeah, I was very lucky. And the scene I was in was pretty great because it was Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and Ray Liotta. And so I have to say, for my 15 minutes of fame, that was a good 15 minutes.
Your last film, well, the big film was the film about Gilda Radner,
Mhm.
and and now you have the Shari Lewis film. What was it about her that really made you want to step into this project?
Well, one, I love lamb chop. Even though I didn't watch the shows, I love lamb chop. And I had lamb chop stuff growing up, so like lamb chop inspired me, but that I didn't know if there was a story. And then I started doing my research, and the New York Times had her father's obituary, Abe Hurwitz, the official magician of New York City. And I was like, what? I just loved that. I was like, wait, her father was a magician? And then I started researching that, and then I started looking at her IMDb page, and I saw she was in like Playboy After Dark. And I was like, wait, there's more. Sherry isn't just somebody who was on Hollywood Squares or television, like there's more to that. So, and I also feel like really brilliant artists usually have a story behind their art. There's usually something that makes them special, that makes them really special. And I think the way Sherry was raised with her parents being her father being a magician, math teacher, and her mother being a musician teacher. And I just thought, and growing up in this vaudeville house, I just thought that that was so unique. Like, I still don't think there is another Shari Lewis.
What we want is to have an entertaining series. Yeah. With interesting characters. Yeah, that people like. Yeah. And care about. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
In the early days of television, there really were no kid shows. And for Shari to come along, have puppets, comedy, I just knew this was different.
One of the things about Sherry that's different than a lot of people is that this was early television and she was the producer of her shows. So she was always creatively, no one could tell Sherry what to do. She was always in charge of her career. And I think that she just loved entertaining so much, and she had the need to she had the need to go back on television, and she would do anything to reinvent herself and just keep going until she was able to go back on. And I think, to me, this has always been a comeback story because she was able to do it and not be in oblivion. Like, she was able to have some success later in life, like she had earlier in life.
Mom wanted to be seen as more than a one-trick pony. And the audience were like, that's nice, where's Lamb Chop?
But there was a time when people didn't want Shari Lewis.
When my show was canceled, the only time I ever went to Lamb Chop and cried with her.
Those years where she did not have a show, I think that was a very lonely, horrible time for her. She did whatever came up to rebuild her career. It was in her DNA.
Her first show was canceled in 1963. She had big visions of going to Los Angeles and being the next Judy Garland or, movie star, TV star, dancer, variety show. And after a while, it's like everyone wanted lamb chop. And so I think that Sherry, in the spirit of Sherry, realized that she created something that audiences loved. And, there's a line in the movie like, lamb chop is a blessing and a curse in some ways. Like, would Sherry have been the next Judy Garland if there was never lamb chop, or would we not even know who Sherry was?
It was so clear. I had found myself with lamb chop.
After all, Lamb Chop, what am I without you? Nothing.
I feel the same way about you.
But there's only room for one son, and Lamb Chop became a big star.
There's also a darker side to this story that you kind of skim the surface, and it's a little cringy with the husband and the puppet, that she would have these discussions with him with the bear puppet, and that seemed to have kind of I wonder what was underneath the surface of a lot of that stuff.
I think the puppet thing came from an interview that from A&E. They did a biography on Shari many years ago, and the UCLA library had all the outtakes. And Andrea, my editor, and I were watching the outtakes, and we were like, what? Like, she would talk through her puppets. And I think that is something that Andrea started to realize, not just the creepiness of that, but how Shari really used the puppets to say things that she wouldn't normally say. Like in 1961, how Lamb Chop wants to be president, but she can't be president because she's a girl. And Shari couldn't speak out and say women should be president, but Lamb Chop could.
When I was watching that scene, I was thinking about the film What About Bob, where Richard Dreyfuss plays a psychiatrist, and the only way that he can talk to his children when they're having issues with him is get out the puppet.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to the puppet, talk to the puppet.
Yeah, she didn't do that with her daughter, though. Like, she didn't do that in real life. That was why it was pretty shocking that her husband said that she takes out the puppet, because that's not anything that anyone ever else said that she did that.
She was a fighter, and not getting it all gives you that fight.
There were a lot of kids who had very unhappy childhoods, and their oasis was this loving adult who accepted you.
No matter how little you are, you can still be a big help to a friend in need.
You create confident and curious human beings by showing them how to do something and then applauding their success.
I can, and I will. Okay, good.
Shari always had to stand up for herself and fight. She was 4'11", and I think people underestimated her. And I think I sort of channeled Shari in some situations where I had to stand up for myself creatively. And I think I've always thought, like, what would Shari do in this situation? Shari would never back down from something that she creatively believed in. And I think that that helped me, if that makes sense, to really stand up for creatively what I believed in. Because I think people do underestimate. Sometimes people underestimate, I don't know if it's me, if it's women. I'm a small person like Shari. I don't know. I'm a softer person. So I think that watching Shari helped me. Also, Shari was not emotional about things. She get knocked down, she would just pick herself up and just keep going. And I think that's very inspirational, not to get, emotionally like, oh, poor me, like not to play the victim and to really be in charge of your life. So I think there's a lot of lessons. I hope there's lessons that people see in the film about believing yourself, about being the best version of yourself. I think that was important to Shari, is that be yourself, but be the best version of you.
I like the scene in the film with the chimpanzee.
Oh,
now chimpanzees are creepy.
yeah.
I mean, they will rip your face off. But when they're young, I guess it's okay. But the way she's done, the chimpanzees in the background doing all this stuff, and she's just holding it.
That was another find. Like, I was at the Paley Center and I was watching some of those shows, and that was from a show called Hey Mom. And I remember watching it, and it was the first time, and probably the only time, that I've seen Shari break character. Like, so that was really like, and at some point somebody had a comment and they wanted me to take it out of the film because the chimpanzee has like a little medal around their neck, and they're like, people are gonna PETA people are going to get upset. And I was like, that was the time. And I love that. I love that scene when the chimpanzees just, you know, knocking everything down. And Sherry's just like trying to compose herself on camera, but she can't. So that's actually my favorite scene in the whole movie. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Shari was able to speak to issues controversial for a woman in that era.
You can't be the president. Why not? You're a girl.
As a kid, if you saw Shari Lewis on TV, you fell in love.
David Copperfield. I'm going, wow, how is he in this movie? Because I never looked at ventriloquism as magic.
He was part of a magic club that Abe had founded, Sherry's father. Like he wasn't there, you know, he wasn't part of Abe's circle, but he knew Sherry's family from the magic club in New York City. And then somehow he had all of Sherry's archives. Like, so I think Shari gave it to him for storage at some point. So we had a truck come in from David's warehouse and go bring the truck full of stuff to Mallory's house. And Mallory rented a I don't know, this thing, I don't know what it's called, a pallet or some outdoor thing. And I spent like months going through all this and transferring things over. So a lot of what's in the film is tapes that were discovered thankfully to David Copperfield.
And I was amazed at how talented she was. And not only that, when she starts doing composing, or not composing, but conducting, now she's like, that's like serious craft stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and she can do it in Japanese too.
Yeah, that was the other thing. It's just, you know, she was good doing the old puppet thing with the socks, but when she busts out the Japanese, that was something else. And I like the line in the film. They go, "Lamb Chop Japanese is perfect. Yours is not so good."
You know, I think she loved her life though. I mean, you know, it's like she loved being an entertainer. And I think, well, you appreciate it too, because you're an entertainer. It's like, I don't think anyone knows the hard work it goes into being a great entertainer or even being a mediocre entertainer, the amount of work that goes into entertaining people and getting up there in front of people and years of school, you know, training. It takes a lot.
She had this talent where she'd look in the camera and go, "Okay, now just have a wonderful day." And it was so sincere.
Yeah. Because she loved what she was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what performers, you could see the performers who just love like connecting to an audience.
Well, we're about out of time. And so listen, come in closer to this camera, because I would just tell you that it's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. You were a really good interviewer. It's been fun.
Oh, it's because of you.
Well, thank you.
I was just having fun watching these brilliant characters teach me.
I think it's called self-esteem, and it is the most important lesson for children to get.
And just remember to make yourself as good as you can be.
When I was trying to, at the beginning of the Gilda film, I was pitching the film and people were like, who's Gilda Radner? Like, it's hard to believe, but they were that. And then it's like, oh, Shari Lewis, like her, like, oh. And then it's like, so I sort of picked these people and then I'm hoping that like, you know, that they are relevant. Because I think that was one of the problems with the Shari film at the beginning. People are like, oh, it's too historical. No one knows who she is. So I'm glad that you feel that it's relevant to our times.